All right, hello, and welcome to another exciting Terry Dame tutorial. I'm going to recap AudioSuite plugins for you. I know I gave you a couple of other tutorials to watch, but here's just some more things that are specific to this project that might be useful to you. So again, AudioSuite plugins are rendered effects plugins, meaning you process the clip that you want to manipulate and it creates a new audio clip, audio file with that processing on it. So different than real-time plugins, which we'll get to a little later in the semester, which you insert on a track and the processing happens in real time. This is a rendered plugin that processes the audio clip and changes the clip permanently in your session. So I'm going to go over the ones that I think might be useful for this project. There's many more in here that you can feel free to experiment with, but I'll just go over a few in here that I think will be helpful. So your AudioSuite plugins are up here in the menu, and they're arranged by category. EQ stands for equalization, and this is can be used as an effect. It also is good for cleaning up audio, production audio, particularly if you are shooting a film and you wanted to clean up your production audio. There was a hum in it or something. What equalization does, and this is a 7-band EQ that I have open here. EQ divides the audible frequency spectrum that we talked about earlier in the semester, which the human ear hears from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. It slices that up into bands and enables you to increase or decrease the level of a specific frequency. So the 7 bands of this one are very low, very high, and these are as filters. So HPF stands for high pass filter and LPF stands for low pass filter. So a high pass filter lets low frequencies through and filters out the high, and a low pass filter lets high frequencies through and filters out the low. These two are the only two in this particular plugin that are not by default already on. You can see down here, these 5 down here, the in button is engaged. These two you have to manually engage to use. So how would you use this? A high pass filter. You know, in a club mix, sometimes they pull out the bass end, all the bass, and you just hear the high frequencies, and then they'll drop it on the beat and bring in the bass. That's what you could use a high pass filter for. So all of these have the same kind of controls. You'll see the frequency, so this lets you adjust what frequency, how much of the low end you're taking out. The other control here is called Q, and this lets you determine the range, how big of an area you're going to affect. So I'm going to engage this and say we want to take out some the low ends on this bunch of beats I have down here. So here's the ticket with all AudioSuite plugins. You have to highlight the area you want to affect, whichever one you want, and then you have to press this little speaker icon here in order to audition or preview the processing. If you just highlight the area and play it and try to manipulate, nothing's happening because you have to preview it here. So I've engaged my my high pass filter here. I've highlighted an area. Now if I increase the frequency of my cutoff, you'll start to hear the low end go away because I'm filtering out the low frequencies. So right, no more low frequencies. And say I love that, I can go ahead and render it. So this is the second step. In order to process your clip, render. So now I have, if I go down here and I zoom in a little, oops, you can see it rewrote that clip and now it says EQ3 7 band, so I know this is processed. So if we play these together now, you'll hear bass, 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 bass. Right, and then I get rid of my high end, my low end, and boom, my low end's back. Okay, so that's one way you can use this. Just quickly, the other, so again, 5 bands, low frequency, LF. So here's this, if I wanted to take away, so that's a shelf. You can see this is the shape here of the, what I'm cutting out. More likely you would use this notch filter. So you can, above the 0 line, adds gain to it, and below takes it away. And then again, the Q narrows your, so this red area is how much you're affecting, what frequency area you're affecting. So they all work the same way. And again, you know, if I turn this back on, you know, next one, you can hear when I'm taking away or adding. And again, the Q narrows the area of frequency that I'm affecting. So probably for this project, the most what you might use in this collection is the high pass filter to take away bass. We'll talk about this more later on, again, in terms of like cleaning up audio that has a hum in it or something. You can really zero in on the frequency that you want to affect. So again, in order to audition, you highlight the area you want to manipulate, you click the speaker icon, and then when you're happy, you render it, and it rewrites the clip, as with this clip down here. Couple important things up here. There's default presets in everything, so you can play with those. These are EQ presets here, not that exciting. The other thing that's important, make sure that this use in playlist is highlighted, and this goes for all the AudioSuite plugins, because otherwise it'll process your clip and it'll put it in the clip bin over here, and it won't use it in your playlist, and that's, you don't want to do that. And then create continuous file and entire selection, you're going to want those two highlighted. There are other options, but for what we're doing right now, leave that, and have this be on multi-input mode, because we are working with stereo files. Okay, EQ. You can choose different AudioSuite plugins by this pull down here, or in the main menu. Let's look at pitch shift. So we already talked about pitch shift in using the elastic audio. This is just another pitch shift plugin. What's cool about this one is you can pitch shift the right side and left side of your stereo track separately, so you can get 2 different pitches and make a harmony. So I grabbed this little vocal here from this piece of opera. Oops, not that. Right, so it's from this Marian Anderson clip. So I just took that me, I dragged it down here into my edit track. So suppose I wanted to pitch shift that again. I'm going to click my arrow, my speaker. And if this link button in the middle is engaged, that means it's going to process the left side of your track and the right side of your track in the same way. So it would sound like... Right? I'm processing right and left in the same way. If I unlink them, now I can make a harmony. So my right side is one and my left side is another. Okay, so say I love that, I can render it. And now this clip without the plugin is rendered. Right? So you could actually, like, you know, make a big fat, I could do that a couple of times in a few different tracks. And that could be groovy. So I could process this one in a different way. So I've got, if I I solo this guy, highlight this. Alright, let's do that one like that. Now if I play them all together, oh my god. Got like 4 harmonies going on there. So that's pretty cool. So that's pitch shift. What else have we got here? So reverb, again I'll go up here. So reverb, we have the deverb. Now I know there's another tutorial, but I'll just quickly go over again. If I wanted to, so let me start over here what I did with this guy here. So again, I took a simple, well, let's take one of the ones we already processed. So that's this guy here. Whoops. So I'm going to take my time compression expansion thingy here, and I'm going to spread her out so she's maybe not quite that far. Alright, maybe I won't do that. Never mind. Undo, undo. I'll leave it as it is. Okay, so let's put some reverb on her. Okay, so remember, again, the ticket with reverb and delay is that they both work by creating a tail, right? So the attack happens, and then reverb is actually the reflection of that sound. So the sound travels from the source through the air, bounces off the walls, and comes back at you. So the larger the room, the larger the reverb. That's why there are all these room sizes up here to choose from. Again, there's all these presets that you can examine in the factory default department. The decay is the length of the tail. That's really the only thing you really want to mess with, need to mess with in this, besides the size of the room. So if you want mega reverb, you could use a large hall and put 28 seconds of decay on it, and you know, you can hear the difference. Infinite to a little bit. Now, if I process this right now, even though it has 19.6 seconds of decay on it, it's still going to end at the end of the clip because I didn't select any area beyond the clip for the tail to go. So if I select like way over here and render that, yeah, it's going to give me a nice big, let's put a big fat one on there. I'm going to render that. And now I get this nice long reverb tail. Cool. Now check this out. Here's another cool thing you can do. Go back up into my AudioSuite plugins down in the other category and reverse. So this puts the tail in front. Right, so you have this long, no audio was selected. So the tail comes first and builds up to the thing. So I'm not going to bother letting that play, but I'm going to go ahead and render it and see how it flips it around. So now the tail's coming up. So this can be cool if you want to like make a dramatic build into your beats or something. I'm going to start it like here, and it would sound like this. Now I would probably move this a little closer so it's the big part of it happens. You could actually, you know what you could do would be even cooler. I'm going to undo that reverse for a sec, and I'm going to duplicate this, and then I'm going to reverse this one. So, and I think I'll slide this and overlap them a little bit, put a little fade on that. This, and now check it out. So it's going to build, and then I'll have the tail, the original one, coming off. Alright, I didn't time that very well. Again, I might move the whole thing over so that the biggest part of the reverb is right where the beats come in, but You get the idea. So you see where I'm going with that. I could have done that better, probably. Okay. So that is reverb and reversing the reverb. Let me talk to you a little bit about delay. So delay works the same way. You need to have a tail on your delay as well, because otherwise it'll delay just for the length of the clip you have selected. So I sliced and diced here a bunch of Kirchfitter's nonsense. Right, I made that. So suppose I wanted this last G to decay away, delay away. So again, this has a link here. So linking this is going to make the right and left side link delay at the same rate. So selecting beyond it. The feedback is how long the delay is gonna keep carrying on. So you can hear that, right? If I made that longer, it'll keep going longer. Right? If this sync button is on, it's going to sync the delay to the tempo of the session. So that can be cool if you're working, you know, with a tempo. If you've beat matched and set your session tempo to a certain thing and you have this sync button engaged, it will make your your delay go in time with your tempo. So let's try that. Oh, and then you can do something cool if you unlink your delay. Well, let me do that first. Getting ahead of myself. I'm so excited. The other thing about delay is that if you leave it at 100% processed wet, you only actually hear the delay. You'll notice there's like a pause there because it's 100% processed. You're not actually hearing the original attack. So if I put it at 50-50, so remember, dry versus wet. Dry is your original clean signal, wet is the process signal. So if you do it this way, you get half and half. So now see how you hear the first hit. Okay, so and then this is the amount of the decay you get. So if you go too far with a really short this is how fast. If you go too far into the timing of the delay in your sample is too short, then it's not going to work. So you have to play around with it. But I'm going to put it back here because I like it like that. Okay, so render that, and now we would have so you'll notice this is a little out of time because I got out of my grid, so I'm gonna go back to my bar and beat grid and see what happens. Yeah. So sometimes it's good to put your delay on a different track, and so you can still have your strong downbeat playing through, if that's what you so desire. Made a mess there. And make sure that's right on my grid. So yeah, so that's kind of cool. There you go. You can also reverse your delay. That could be interesting. Not in this particular case, but you know, just so you see. Where does it start? Yeah, so it's quite short over here. But, oops. So if I wanted to put that at the beginning before I get into my little chi sequence here, I could put it over here and do like a... Anyway, things you can do to make fun sound. One other one I'm going to show you is one of my favorites in the modulation category, the Sci-Fi plugin. So this is a ring modulator. Anytime you see modulation, that means it's applying another waveform on top of your audio file to manipulate it in some way. So here's my I have 4 different types of effects, just the way the effect is applied, and then the kind of a modulation. The frequency knob determines what frequency of your audio file, where in your audio file, what frequency range it's going to affect. The depth is how intense the effect, and then these modulation is the rate is basically how intense the wave is, and again, you know, what shape the waveform is, and this is how deep it goes. So let's put, let me go back to this. So you can see I'm affecting different frequencies. Let's try it with a short sound. Not as exciting. How about with beats? Let's put some beats. That's kind of cool. And there are presets for this one too. Alien talk. Bad contact. Some dirty drums. And you can, so, you know, you can take the presets and change them around too. So experiment with that. Quasi-wah. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, so play around, whistle drums. Yeah, alright, so there's some more fun things you can do, and if I loved that, I could render that, and then so I can go from normal to EQ'd to all that. Okay, so the highlights here, no matter what one of your effects you're choosing here, you have to highlight your area. Ooh, look at that. Audition it with the speaker and then render it. And you can, you know, do multiple passes to audio. There's no limit to how many times you can process it. Keep in mind, you know, the more you process it, the weirder it's going to get. But hey, that's part of the fun. So there you go, AudioSuite in a nutshell. Again, I recommend you could play with EQ, you can play with reverb, delay, pitch shift, Sci-Fi. That should give you enough fun to carry on. You can experiment with some of these other ones. Our friend Wavy Wayne explained actually he explained Verify, but we might not even have Verify here. So Oh yeah, there's verify. So if you wanted to play with that. Okay, that's all I have to say. Have fun and be creative. See you next week.